We're going to be exploring today how we can find a bit more peace from our inner critics and our inner judges. Because if you're like me, you have an inner judge, someone who is evaluating, how are you doing? And, some of the judges that come up for me recently have been around, George, you're working very many hours at the moment. Are you living in integrity with what you're sharing? And I have experienced these thoughts as judges. And, I'm in the court. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to tonight's briefing we have in the accusee. I don't know how judges, I haven't been in court before, so I don't know how the judge says. Look, the person getting judged today is George, and we've got some charges against George. He's working many hours and he is out of integrity and therefore is not living in keeping with what he says he is, and we're judging him as bad. And, before they do the judging, I'm like defending myself. No, I'm doing something that I'm really passionate about and contributing to something that I feel is deeply meaningful, the healing of myself and the planet and me contributing. Please, I'm a good person. So you may be familiar with that, that internal judgment. So, I don't know what your judgments are at the moment, but, we have the judge and then we have ourselves defending ourselves. No, it's not true. I am a good person. Or no, I am beautiful. No, I am good enough. So that's one option to deal with our painful thinking, is to defend ourselves. No, it's not true. Another option is, and this is the key insight that we get in meditation, is to realize that these thoughts, they are just, an experience arising in our awareness. That I'm not my thoughts. Thoughts are an energy, and I have the power and the freedom to not identify with those thoughts. And the reason we meditate is because in meditation we are maybe focusing on our breath, and then we notice, wow, these thoughts are just endlessly coming, and I have the power to not identify with them. And really, this is something that you've got to experience for yourself. It's just words at the moment from me, but it's a really powerful experience when you experience for the first time. Wow, that judgmental thought is just something that I'm identifying with, and I don't need to identify with it. Wowee, freedom. Real release, real beauty to be found there. So we're on this journey of trying to find peace from our judgmental inner critics. Option 1 was to defend ourselves. Option 2 is to meditate and to observe our thoughts. Okay, I'm not my thoughts. I can just choose to let the thought go. The problem, however, with this approach is that, one, it takes a lot of practice to be able to not get lost in the judgments. Like maybe we're lost for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 hours, 5 hours, 2 months in that judgment of, oh, I'm not good enough, defending myself. And it can take us a long time to get to, okay, wow, this is just me being a human being. Human beings have inner critics. This is an experience arising in my awareness. I don't have to identify with it. I can ground myself in something bigger. It can take a long time to get there. I feel grateful on my journey that I quite readily and quite quickly now notice judgment. Okay, there's a judgment. There's another judgment. There's another judgment. There's another judgment. So problem 1 with meditation is that it takes a lot of practice. And then even if you do practice, like you can just be endlessly observing your thoughts. Okay, here's a judgment, let it go. Here's a judgment, let it go. Because these thoughts are telling us something. Pain is feedback from the body and from the mind and from the heart about something maybe needs to change. Like in the same way, if you put your hand on a hot plate, the pain will make you step away. In the same way that pain in our heads and in our minds and painful thinking is pointing to something, an unmet need, something that isn't necessarily, an unmet need. So nonviolent communication is one of the most powerful tools that I found to build compassion for myself and for the world. And one of the big insights for NVC, nonviolent communication, is needs consciousness, is to understand that the judgments, the pain, are ways that the mind, body, heart are giving us feedback as to whether or not our needs are met or they are unmet. So if we go back to my judge, we are judging George to be working too many hours. And like, if I ask myself, okay, so there's a judgment, but what's the need underneath that? Is that I have a need to live in integrity. Like I have a need to, walk the walk and to live a life of integrity. So those judgmental, painful thoughts, they have a wisdom if we can attend to them. And if we just observe in our meditation, if we just keep on observing without really delving into why are these thoughts coming up, then we're just going to be stuck in this loop. Observing, letting go, observing, letting go. All right, so we're on the journey to try and find peace from our inner critics, our inner judges. We can defend ourselves, we can observe and let go through meditation, but there is another option. And this option is an invitation and something that I've been working on recently, and I've found big breakthroughs in how I relate to my inner critic. And that is to see these voices in our heads, these parts, these patterns, as advisors. And to imagine that you have a council of advisors and you've got this misfit, motley crew of internal voices sitting at the table. Now, I will explain a bit more about what these voices are and illustrate this more with more examples. But first, we need to meet the leader of the council. The leader of the council is your wise self, is my wise self. That part of you that is compassionate, curious, creative, kind, that if you're maybe lost for hours in judgment, that eventually come back and say, wow, that was a wild ride. Okay, I'm back. You're okay. You care and you love. Let me know in the chat if you connect with that voice, that wise self. Maybe we're not in it the whole time, but it's there. So that wise self is within all of us in the same way that most human beings are born within an inner critic. Most human beings are born with this wise self. Maybe even all of us are born with this wise self. And the wise self yearns and craves and is its destiny to lead your internal world. For however many years, often we are, battling the voices in our heads, and the wise self is struggling, fighting oneself. No, I shouldn't be anxious. No, I shouldn't judge myself. No, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. But there is another option. And that's this council of advisors. Can you begin to see your internal voices, your parts, as this council? So shortly, I'm going to invite us to try meditation together, where we can begin to visualize this and to experience this. I want to first describe my internal world and the voices that are, in my council. And so for me, my council is a round table in an elegant room with wooden mantelpieces. And then there's the wise self sitting around the circular table. And then there is, slowly, one by one, the voices that make up my psyche. So here are some of mine, and maybe these resonate with you, and really invite you to create your own internal world. Like when you notice criticism, like, okay, who was saying that? That's the key word. So before, we would say no or let it go. Now the question is, who said that? And to come in our mind's eye to that, for me, and you can choose your own location, for me, a circular table with my wise self sitting there and asking that question, okay, who said that? So there's my inner critic, the underminer, who is a catastrophizer, who is maybe a bit insecure and will give me judgmental thoughts. So welcome, maybe that part of me can come sit at the table. And then there's my little boy who's insecure and anxious, and maybe part of that, desire to live in integrity comes from, this deep need for connection and for love that my inner boy has, that, he wants to be appreciated. He wants to, live in integrity so that he can find connection. He can feel like he's enough. And so, there's still alive in me some, insecurity. That little boy is just sometimes, needs some support and reassurance, as opposed to saying, no, you're wrong. Instead, can I see when I have the voices from my inner boy, just say, all right, there you are. Hello. What do you need? Then there's the taskmaster within me. Move faster, darn it. This is my hyper efficient person who I honor. It's like I'm passionate about what I do, creating films and videos and communities and all of that stuff that I hope can support you. But the taskmaster has this need for efficiency, but can take over sometimes when it isn't appropriate. The justice warrior, I'm right, damn it, feels anger when my need for justice isn't met, and frustration. So, I had some run-ins with the landlords of the place that I'm in at the moment, and felt like they didn't treat me with justice or care. And there's a part of me that's angry, saying, oh, come on, I want to get justice. And my wise inner self can say, okay, I understand you have a need for justice. I can see that you're angry right now. But can you see how if I sit that voice down at the table, then it's not overwhelming me. I'm not defining myself by my anger and that need for justice. But instead, it's part of me. Okay, there you are. What do you need? What's happening for you? Georgie wants to be playing in connection, and service George. So, there are some of my internal parts. What are the parts that you have? Maybe taking a moment. What's been bothering you recently? Who's been your inner judge recently? What are some of the things that have been giving you pain recently? Painful thinking. Taking a moment to reflect on that if you'd like to. And then, does that part of you have a character name? Does it have a particular role? Have you met this character before? Are there any names popping into your mind right now? And then what is the need? What is the need that part of you is trying to meet? Because all these parts of us, no matter how painful, and maybe how their strategies to meet our needs are just wildly inappropriate or destructive, there's still a need that they're trying to meet. So can you get to that need? So hopefully some ideas are coming up for you around becoming more comfortable with, more in relation with a part of yourself. So my idea of the underminer, the inner critic, even actually for me now feels too broad. The underminer is useful as like an overall theme, but there are so many different aspects to our inner critics, our inner judges. Like the catastrophizer has a need for security. The warrior about relationships has a need for connection and for love. Worrying about how social anxiety has a need for connection. So if we can get to those needs, then we can really build compassion. And then we sit the parts down in our council of advisors. So I'm wondering if you'd like to do a bit of a meditation visualization with me, where we can find those parts together to visualize our council of advisors and to see if this idea resonates with you. Because the ideal and what I've been experiencing over the past days and weeks is to really keep coming back. Every time I notice an inner judge, come back. Who was saying that? Sit down at my council. So if you'd like to join me, you can be sitting in any way you'd like to be. Imagining there's a piece of string attached to the ceiling, to the top of your head. And feel a lengthening of your spine. And let's just take a couple of minutes to land with our breath. Breathing in and out through your nose, if it's available to you today. Softening your face. If there's any tension in your forehead or your eyes, allow them to sink. If there's any tension in your cheeks or your jaw, feel your face sinking. Slow, kind breathing. Now an invitation is to place your awareness on your feet and your connection to the floor. See if you can find that sensation of your feet being supported without needing to label. Just see if you can experience that sensation directly. The visualization that we're going to go through is generally a kind and easy one. You've always got the freedom to come out at any time that you want to. You can always bring your awareness back to your feet, or open your eyes, or just gaze downwards. You're in control here. These are all invitations for us to explore ourselves and to find some insight. Beautiful. So let's start off by finding and coming into relationship with our wise self. So if you were to imagine your wise self right now, what comes to mind? The part of you that's compassionate, creative, kind, curious. What does your wise self look like in your mind's eye? What are you wearing? How does it feel right now to imagine this wise self? This is in you, it's in all human beings. This awesome capacity for wisdom, for clarity, for insight that we are born with. It's just that we can come in and out of relationship with our wisdom. We can get lost. How does it feel to be in connection with your wisdom? I'd like to invite you to ask your wise self, are you up for leading around here a bit more? Asking your wise self if they would like to step into a role of self-leadership. And if they say yes, then tell them that we're going to have a council of advisors who can support you on your journey. Council of advisors that can help you understand what your needs are. Council of advisors that, while their words may not always be skillful, deep down are wanting to have your needs met. So asking your wise self if they're willing to collaborate with their council of advisors. And then where is your council room? So are you in nature? Are you in a room? Visualizing the space now where you're going to imagine your internal council, where your wise self is taking leadership, listening to the different parts of your psyche. What does the room look like? Are you sitting at a table? If so, maybe the table's circular, representing balance. And this is a safe space for you, somewhere that feels comfortable for your wise self. Beautiful. Now, an invitation is to bring in the advisors. What are the voices that come to mind? What are the parts of you that you've identified? Taking them one by one, welcoming them. Maybe they do a little introduction of themselves. Like, hi, I'm this part of you and I have a need to meet this. But sometimes I can do that. So maybe you're in a boy or in a girl has a need for connection, for security, for love, but can get insecure. So welcoming your parts in. And there are smiles at the table. Feels good to be in the room finally, instead of always fighting each other. There's a shared intention to work together, to collaborate, to come to needs instead of being stuck in judgment. And finally, maybe there's something that's been alive for you recently, a struggle, a judgment. You could just try quickly now to bring that issue to the table. Which part of you has been feeding these judgmental, painful thoughts? Have your wise self invite them to express themselves. And there's no need to sort this challenge out, no need to have any fixes, but just to have your wise self listen, to acknowledge the feelings and the needs that are being expressed. And we have another minute before we begin to close our meditation and visualization. So if there's anything else that wants to be expressed now, as you imagine your wise self in counsel with your advisors, now's the time. And having your parts and your wise self thank each other, and an invitation to bring your awareness down out of your mind's eye, relaxing your face, relaxing your shoulders, relaxing your belly, breathing deep, bringing your awareness down your body to your feet, feeling your feet grounded to the earth. Giving a squeeze of your legs with your hands. Maybe giving yourself a bit of a hug, squeezing your arms, giving yourself a little bit of a hug, some compassion, some love for taking these steps on your journey towards more peace and understanding. And whatever you experienced during that visualization, it's really welcome. And taking as long as you want, gently opening your eyes, coming back into our space together. Thank you so much for trusting me with voyaging with you through that. It's a privilege.